The church was actually here about the same time as the college was started. As you may know, Bethany College started out as Buffalo Seminary. Buffalo Seminary was a school that was located in Campbell's own home. And young men, it was just men in those days who were entering ministry, they came to Campbell's home and actually stayed there and taught and were taught different subjects that you need to go into ministry, like Bible studies, Christian education, church history, and in those days, Latin, Greek, and rhetoric. All those things were taught there. That was, it didn't last too long. I'm not sure exactly how long Buffalo Seminary lasted, but it's now found a rebirth here under Dr. Larry Grimes, who is the dean of Buffalo Seminary, and that is an organization that seeks to bring in ministers from all over the area to Bethany to learn about different things that will help their work in the church. So from the beginning, the church has had a really strong connection with the college. There was a time when it was practically required for new faculty members that they were expected to attend Bethany Memorial Church. Of course, those days are long gone, and there have been a series of presidents for the college who have not had that vision of the connection between the college and this local church, and between the college and the denomination. So we've lost out on some of that in recent years. We're trying to get that back, though, by doing various things with the college. For example, we partner with the Greek fraternities and sororities in their food drive that they have annually, sometimes more than once a year. And we get most of those canned goods, and we see that they're distributed here locally in Brooke County. Recently, we've hosted a number of different activities that would draw and be attractive to students, faculty, and staff. We have, about twice a year, we have a wine and cheese reception for all our faculty and staff. This is the home of Alexander Campbell, who was the founder of the denomination that we belong to, called the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. His home is down the road here at the mansion, we call it, and he also founded the college, Bethany College, in 1840. This was his church. He never came into this building, but he was instrumental in founding the church way back in the early 1800s. We have a very long history, and so from coast to coast and around the world. But as I said, church is like the flagship, the mother place church for the whole denomination. The body of people that Alexander Campbell drew together. Very interesting place. This is the fifth location where they have worshipped. So it's a really important milestone for us because we count it as a privilege to be a part of the movement called the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. And part of that is the stewardship of this building for the whole denomination because it's a historic place. There's a lot of very rare papers here, incredible stained glass windows that commemorate different people who have been important for the church and for the college too.
I have lived in Bethany all my life, with the exception of 2 years when my husband was in the military and stationed in Germany. The church has always been a part of my life. From the time I was small, I came with my parents, and my mother worked in the church. My father was a deacon and the church treasurer for many years, and I was in Sunday school and in youth groups and just anything that was going on. I felt as at home at the church as I did at home. It was just a very big part of my life. Bethany Church has always been the center of the community, basically a community center. It's always been open for people to use whenever they need to. Organizations meet here free of charge. Now we have a couple of other options in town, so the church isn't used as much now as it has been through the years, but I would say it's been basically a community center. For years and years, when Bethany was a younger community, we had the house was full on Christmas Eve. We had candlelight service, and all the children who grew up here came back to visit their parents, and the pews were all full, and it was a wonderful chance to get to see everybody and to celebrate the birth of Christ. Now Bethany is an older community. There aren't too many children here, and so the Christmas Eve service is still very nice, just not as many people here as I can remember throughout the years. Pentecost has always been a special time where we utilize the old meeting house, which was the building down the street that Alexander Campbell preached in. And we invite surrounding churches to come join us, and we have a service there, and then we migrate down to the park or to this building for a picnic afterwards. So it's always a really nice activity. We also try to do something special in September when everyone comes back, students and faculty, and that's just the time that people move into Bethany. And so we like to do that. We began 1 year ago. We had a lovely lady in our community by the name of Margaret Connor, who passed away a couple of years ago, but she would have been 100 last November, or I believe maybe it was last October. And so her daughter wanted to celebrate that day, and we decided that would be a wonderful day to begin our 100 years. That was when the groundbreaking took place for this building. So we had a big party for the church and for Margaret, and our former pastor, Sarah Webb, came back and preached that day. And throughout the year, our minister has invited all the former pastors that are able to come back and preach. And so throughout the year, we have done that. Pentecost, we had Dan Harry was back. And then today is, this week would have been the dedication of this building 100 years ago. And so today we're having Bill Allen, who was a minister here for more than 10 years. And a very special person who's served now in the region and done lots of good things. So he's preaching today, so it's great to have him back.
I'm Larry Grimes. I'm moderator of the Board of Ministry at Bethany Memorial Church, and I first began attending Bethany Memorial Church in 1960 when I came here as a student. So I guess that logs in 50 years or so. I was away for 6 years at graduate school and returned to Bethany in 1970. And it's been my home church ever since, although I am an ordained minister in the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, and sometimes I've been on loan to other churches, so I've been in and out over those years. But it's a very significant part of my life. Bill Allen this morning was talking about the special places, and I was thinking, it's that front step before the altar. That's where my wife and I knelt to receive communion when we were married here 50 years ago, come next June. So this church is a deep part of our life. My daughter was baptized into this church, grew up in this church. So for many of us here, the church has been where we have rejoiced and sung great praises, and where we've gathered for grief, for funerals, for celebration of that movement of our dear friends into God's other kingdom. It's been a busy church over the years. I noted this morning that we have gathered at that communion table up there in this 100 years 36,500 times at least. And Bill Allen noted this morning that just down at the old meeting house alone, there were 800 people ordained into ministry. So the heritage of this church is long and old, as I said this morning in remarks. The congregation itself is 214 years old. Alexander Campbell, who founded Bethany College, also founded this church. Originally, it was a little church on a hill in Pennsylvania. It was built just like the old barns of the time, with a couple of windows put in it. And the congregation called Brush Run Church started there. They've left there in 1823 and moved down to Wellsburg for a while. And then Bethany became big enough that it needed its own church. And so Campbell gave the grounds down at the corner of Church Street and Main Street for the building of a first meeting house in Bethany. And they outgrew that and built the second meeting house that's still there. And they outgrew that. So in 1914, 50 years ago, they broke ground here for this church, which opened to itself in 1915 and has been the center of many things in this community ever since. I mean, there was a period of time back in the 80s when we redid all of Old Main. So commencements were down here. All kinds of convocations were here. It's a meeting place for college and community together. It has been a place that's sponsored mission trips to Central America. It's opened its doors and its pocketbooks for hurricane relief in the valley when Ivan came through and washed away everything, including Bethany's closest bar at that time. It's a fundamental part of how life goes on in Bethany. There have been times when more students have been interested in church than they are today, but generations change their minds and come and go. And I hope that the connection between students and church grows, and as we move into our next century, we'll probably have to change some for that, because generations have changed.